Hey guys, welcome to another episode in the playthrough of Hitman World of Assassination. We are starting Hitman 3 in Dubai. Previous episode we finally concluded Haven Island, still a very cool level. One of my favorites as regards to setting and targets, etc. But we are now heading to the Middle East, and in this episode we will be watching the cutscene, reading the character bios, and entering the level, starting exploration. Hopefully, there's enough time. So here we go.
Agent 47 and Diana Burnwood are the world's top assassins working for the ICA. Unknowingly, they have been hired by a shadow client to target a number of operatives of Providence, a secret organization working in the highest echelons of power. Providence's controller, the Constant, approaches Diana and makes her a deal. Eliminate the shadow client and learn about 47's past. But when 47 discovers that the shadow client is Lucas Gray, his lost childhood friend, he and Diana switch sides to fulfill an old pact: destroy Providence. Together, they manage to capture the Constant, forcing him to reveal the identities of the 3 Providence partners. Eliminate them, and the war would be over. However, the Constant has an ace up his sleeve.
Alright, cool. Little story recap. Here we go.
Look closer. In the shadows, behind the everyday world, beyond the headlines and the seats of power, a hidden hand. A kind of company known as Providence. To it, we were just assets, to use and throw away, to do the unthinkable, the unforgivable, and it never gave us a second thought. Until now. After decades in the shadows, we are fighting back. Me and 47. Much has been lost, but we are closer than ever. We trapped the Constant, Providence's chief controller, and finally learnt the names of its 3 partners. In their downfall, we lay the past to rest. And, just maybe, look towards the future. 47. It's time.
Epic!
The partners are down there.
Super epic.
You know, I never planned this far ahead. You never do. I see someone got his memory back. Wait, is that a beacon? What the hell? Base. Alexa Carlisle's helicopter just took off. Confirm target locations, over. Diana, what's the status?
Right. We have a situation. Carlisle has left the building. And I think I know why. The Constant has escaped. He persuaded one of the sailors into setting him free. And since then, he's been seizing control of Providence assets and resources. I can only assume Carlisle is rushing to contain the damage.
If she slips away again...
We'll keep track of her. Make sure she doesn't. Meanwhile, the plan stays the same. Your destination is the Scepter, the world's tallest building where the partners are laying low, courtesy of their host, Sheikh Omar Al-Ghazali. Marcus Stuyvesant is fifth-generation old money. His family made its fortune in real estate and banking, and were at one point the chief landowners in New York. Carl Ingram is a powerful Washington kingmaker whose family grew rich selling gunpowder during the American Civil War, and later established a globe-spanning empire in oil, coal, and steel. Both families long since retreated from public view, but their quiet dominance endures to this day. Now, the partners likely suspect that we're coming, so Mr. Grey will infiltrate building controls and disable all electronic doors and elevators. Stuyvesant and Ingram are about to find they have nowhere left to run.
Right. This is our moment, 47. Providence ruined our lives with the flick of a pen. Today, we return the favor. Happy hunting.
Pretty epic cutscene. Also cool that it are not like in Hitman 2. You had like not cut scenes, but cut pictures, so to say. It was not moving cutscenes, or slightly moving, but it was not like fully like a movie. And now they reverted back to actual dynamic cutscenes, more dynamic. Anyways, we will be reading the character bios. This one we already saw, right? This is what we just saw,
Look
I guess.
closer.
Yes. Alright, Carl Ingram. The Ingram family is of Scandinavian origin. Their earliest known ancestors were blacksmiths in Norway, but in the early 19th century they migrated to America and became cattle ranchers. They eventually made a fortune selling gunpowder during the American Revolutionary War, and later established an empire in oil, coal, and steel. By the 20th century, the Ingrams had become one of the world's biggest fossil energy providers and began expanding their business empire into fields such as agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and consumer goods. In fact, some of the family's biggest sources of revenue come from the Thwak Beverage Company and the global empire of chain stores. Key Providence assets such as Hamsun Oil, Blue Seed Agriculture, and the Pax Mundus Foundation, a geopolitical think tank, are all largely controlled by the Ingram family. However, it is their political clout, a benefit of controlling the vital oil and coal markets, that makes them truly powerful. The Ingrams are responsible for most of the Providence operatives positioned in governments and state institutions around the world, including senators, cabinet secretaries, generals, and even a high-ranking papal advisor, and they enjoy a close relationship to Middle Eastern and Latin American power players such as the Al-Ghazali family in Saudi Arabia and the Moreno drug cartel in Mexico. Carl Ingram, 66, is the current head of family and the second most senior Providence partner. Carl is brash, direct, and a cowboy at heart. Despite their immense wealth and privilege, the family has always cultivated a Protestant work ethic, and Carl feels most at home at his Kansas ranch or touring his oil fields, which incidentally is also where he brings his business partners and political acolytes to size them up. Carl is a lion of a man with a quiet air of dominance and a steel handshake. He's also highly intelligent, perceptive, and an astute judge of character. As a youth, Carl enlisted in the army and completed a tour of duty in Vietnam shortly before the fall of Saigon. Returning home to finish his studies, Carl decided that while the logic behind the domino theory had been sound, military campaigns were archaic and ineffective. War should be fought not with boots on the ground, but through the dual channels of Machiavellian tradecraft and the slow power of corporate influence. Carl studied military intelligence and became a foreign policy advisor to the White House by the tender age of 32. When by 40 he inherited control of the Ingram estate from his father Douglas, Carl had both the political savvy and the corporate muscle to set himself up as behind-the-scenes kingmaker, whose endorsement is guaranteed to make or break campaigns and indeed careers on both sides of the political divide. and yet Carl, like his family name, remains virtually unknown to the general public, always preferring the subtle backroom machinations over the spectacle and limelight. He finally replaced his father Douglas as Providence partner in 1994. Right, just checking whether there are any more years mentioned. Don't really see it. Carl Ingram comes across as a libertarian, but in truth his pragmatism transcends political boxes. He views himself and Providence as the vanguards of global stability and status quo, and this balancing act requires a highly flexible mind. For instance, Carl has spent billions undermining the climate agenda, while simultaneously investing heavily in climate change countermeasures. However, this is all for the good of society. Carl believes that only the steady hand of Providence can lead the world into a more sustainable age without the otherwise inevitable descent into disruption, upheaval and revolution. Carl was married twice with 2 sons from his first marriage and an adopted son from his second. None of his heirs know about Providence yet, but Carl leans towards appointing his adopted son, whom he sees as having the greatest potential, as his successor. Unsentimental and a staunch meritocrat, Carl takes his power very seriously but is unapologetic about it, believing that only the capable has a right and duty to rule, and that to the best and brightest, power and leadership is no privilege, it is an obligation. However, like his associate Marcus Stuyvesant, Carl's pride has blinded him to the threat of Arthur Edwards, and now it may be too late to pass on the torch. God damn it, these are long bios. I mean, they're still very nice setup and they provide context, but they are really long. Alright, this one hopefully is a bit shorter, I doubt it by the way. Marcus Stuyvesant. The Stuyvesant family is of Dutch-German origin. Their earliest known ancestors were violin builders in the 18th century in Rotterdam. Moving to Bavaria, where they became successful merchants, they eventually settled in New York and established an empire in real estate and banking. At one point, they owned 50% of all property on Manhattan, competing with the Astor family as the landlords of New York. They also cultivated an image as patrons of the arts and sciences, donating museum and university wings all over New England. During their heyday, the late 19th and 20th century, the Stuyvesants were counted among the 5 richest families in the world, and like most powerful clans in the age of rogue capitalism that followed the Industrial Revolution, they were essentially robber barons. They made a fortune of King Leopold II's atrocities in the Congo, cynically exploited the fallout of the Great Depression, which they managed to dodge, and maintained lucrative trade deals with despots throughout the 20th century, such as Pinochet in Chile and Jean Paul in Cadagnan. If I only knew where Cadagnan was, I would be a wiser man. To this day, their intricate networks of banks frequently and indiscriminately launder money for white-collar criminals, organized crime syndicates, terrorist groups, and despots all around the world. Ever since the end of the Second World War and the creation of Providence, the Stuyvesants have retreated from public view, and few today recognize the name. The family is still immensely wealthy, but their true currency is influence. Their assets and investments are deliberately scattered and obscured, hidden behind funds and shell companies. But the Stuyvesant estate is involved in a wide and diverse range of industry, such as real estate, banking and finance, insurance and legal services, as well as the arts, sports and entertainments. Important Providence assets such as Milton Fitzpatrick Investment Bank, Danziger Limited Insurance, Morgan Yates and Cohn law firm. That's one of the guys, I think, lawyers that we killed in Hitman 2 in Bangkok. Mr. Morgan, I think, was a lawyer. And Monumental Pictures are old Stuyvesant properties in which they still own a controlling share. Marcus Stuyvesant, 51, the current head of the family, is the youngest of the Providence partners. He is divorced from Penelope Huxley Stuyvesant, with whom he has a single daughter, Cornelia, who runs the Stuyvesant Art Foundation. A strong proponent of order, diligence and pertinence, Marcus tends to come across as officious and high-strung. Before Alexa Carlyle, Marcus' late father Eckhart used to sit at the head of the table, and Marcus is doggedly determined to prove himself his father's equal. Alright, I'm not sure what order, diligence and pertinence. What the hell does pertinence mean? Sorry, I'm making that a quick learning moment. Here we go. Pertinence. Directly related to and important for the subject being considered. Relevance, pertinence. So he's probably, it means to the point. Anywho, sorry, little sidestep there. An introvert and dyslexic, Marcus dragged himself through college on the wings of his family name and generous campus contributions. He landed a job at the prestigious law firm Morgan, Yates & Cohn, although his grades were hardly in the top 10%. Diligent and determined, he was on partner track when Eckhart died abruptly of a stroke, and Marcus was approached for the first time by Arthur Edwards, the second constant. So I don't understand. Marcus's late father Eckhart, is that his first name? Eckhart, alright. So is that Janus, the guy we killed in Whittleton Creek? That was the first constant, right? Anywho, diligent and determined, he was on partner track when Eckhart died abruptly of a stroke, and Marcus was approached for the first time by Arthur Edwards, the second constant, who revealed the Stuyvesant family's true legacy. Partnership on a whole different scale. Marcus later learned that Eckhart had long considered appointing Milton Fitzpatrick CLG Cobb instead of his pedestrian son, but he died before he could finalize his decision. This humiliating feeling of being a temp or runner-up haunts Marcus to this day. Marcus adores his daughter Cornelia and, determined to be a more supportive father than Eckhart, insists that she should one day succeed him as partner. But Cornelia ironically shows little sign that she would be even remotely interested in running a globe-spanning power cabal. And now Marcus is waking up to the harsh realization that not only is it too late to shape Cornelia, Marcus is waking up to the harsh realization that not only is it too late to shape Cornelia in his own image, there may simply be nothing left to inherit. Alright, sorry, I was reading it quite slowly because it's all quite confusing to me. I also tried to actually follow what was written down a bit. But is he now still wanting to become the number one, or was that the other guy? Marcus is doggedly determined to prove himself his father's equal. Yeah, so he also still wants that number one spot, I guess. He is a little bit disappointed that his father had somebody else in mind, but yeah, that only motivates him, I guess. But does this guy then also want to be number one? Current head of the family, second most senior Providence partner. One moment, almost done. Alright, with 2 sons, none of his heirs know about Providence yet, but Carl leans towards appointing his adopted son. Carl takes his power seriously. Yeah, I don't think this guy has an ambition to become #1, but the other guy does. He wants to equal his father, and his father, Marcus Stuyvesant, Eckhart Stuyvesant, was the first constant. Alright, so that was, again, as expected, a very long introduction. We will be starting with the default loadouts, and here we go.
Welcome to Dubai, 47. Today is the inauguration of the scepter, and the ceremony is well underway. You will find Marcus Stuyvesant near the building's signature art installation, while a paranoid Carl Ingram has ensconced himself in his penthouse suite, security on highest alert. Mr. Gray is already in position and ready to assist. Good luck, 47.
Right. Also pretty cool how they call this building Scepter, which is probably a reference to Spectre of James Bond. I'm really looking forward to ILI's James Bond game currently in development. They really are by far the best developer
47.
you could think of.
Come in. 47, do you copy?
I'm here.
Are you in position?
I'm heading towards a point of entry.
Good. Get back to me when you're there.
These Hitman games have more James Bond vibe than the last 5 James Bond movies. They do it better in my view. Capture that whole James Bond ambience. Anyways, where the hell do we go? We can drop down. We cannot walk up. It also feels like Mission Impossible.
Locked. 47, use your camera and scan the lock, will you? I think I can override the Windows controls from here.
Right, that's like a new game mechanic that we already in the world of Assassination. You have it equipped also in Hitman 1 and 2, but there's not really a use for the camera besides being a binocular, which is very useful, but you cannot hack items in those games, but we can in this game. So here we go. Mechanic. And I'm just looking, like, checking out.
I'm in position.
47, the inauguration is taking place close by. Once you've infiltrated it, get your bearings. I'm sure there must be floor plans somewhere.
Understood.
We need absolute focus on this one. If Ingram and Stuyvesant are alerted to our presence, we may lose them for good. We are so close, 47.
Don't worry. They're not going anywhere.
Anywho, I'm still a little bit ambiguous about Mr. Gray, Agent 6, the guy on the voiceover. Whether he is not secretly cooperating with the current constant after all. I don't think so, but it's very cool character that you have that ambiguity still, that latent potential possibility that he is a bad guy after all. And And I'm also looking like, does it look better graphical than Hitman 1 and 2? Maybe a little bit. But of course 1 and 2 also got the ray tracing upgrades, etc. during the World of Assassination updates. But still, it could be that this game natively is just a little bit higher graphical fidelity. So, yeah, it all looks amazing. All these little details. Here you can actually read this electrical panel model number. It's amazing. Voltage variable capacitor. It's all pretty damn cool, all that detail, I must say. Things that you really don't notice until you pay attention to it. And then it's really immersive, that it all is quite realistic. Alright, here we are. Might shake for the next generation. Apparently this game also, this Hitman 3 levels, they are much more also, I think, focused on environmental storytelling, and also that, for example, on to-do boards or whiteboards throughout the level there can be like codes for entrance locks or for safes, like keypads, etc., that are scattered in the environment itself instead of being always in the inventory of an NPC or something. So really looking forward to that. To that environmental interaction and storytelling and stuff. This is the same, I recognize this from Haven Island, because weird as I am, I read all the different coffees in Haven Island, and they are, I'm pretty sure, the same as this one. So obviously there is some asset reuse going on. Here we go. Yes, this really has a high 007 vibe, which I really like. Very cool. Cool suit also. Grey one.